right, we are live.
There you go. Okay. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Jamestown City Council, June 8th, 2020 meeting to order. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Sheldon,
Here.
James,
Here.
Karuba,
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Eklund,
Here.
Graham Reinhardt,
Here.
Russell,
Here.
Schultz.
Here. This time, would the clerk please read the public notice?
Dear council members, please take notice in accordance with the provisions of section C-19 of the Charter of the City of Jamestown, and in my capacity as mayor and chief executive officer of said city, to hereby call a special meeting of the Jamestown City Council to be held at 7:00 p.m. Monday, June 8th, 2020, via video conference. The purpose of the special meeting shall be to take action on the following items. The adoption of the 2020 COVID-19 financial restructuring plan attached, and authorization to enter into phase 1 of said plan. Please also take notice that due to the New York State Public Health State of Emergency and by executive order of the governor of the state of New York, no public will be allowed. This special meeting shall be available via live stream at jamestownny.gov/live and transcribed. All public comments should be submitted in writing by 5 p.m. the day before the meeting via email to the clerk at jamestownny.gov or via USPS mail to City Clerk, Municipal Building, 200 East 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York, 14701. Very truly yours, Edward A. Sundquist, Mayor.
Thank you. I assume obviously this is out of finance. So Kim, I don't know if you wanted to read the resolution.
Sure. I have a resolution adopting the 2020 COVID-19 financial restructuring plan attached and the authorization to enter into phase 1 only of the said plan.
And before we vote on that, I should know, were there any correspondence
I
about
didn't receive any correspondence on the matter.
Are there any questions or comments from council members before we take the vote?
Do we have it? Oh, if we had to.
Go ahead.
I didn't know what elimination of physical binding for mayor certificates meant.
We send certain records to be bound into books that are kept in the clerk's vault.
Okay.
It's costly, so we can definitely go a year without having it done.
Okay,
So that's where that deduction came from.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Grant,
Yeah, when would we know if we had to take the next step to phase 2? What would be, what would be that thing that has to happen to move into that next step?
Mr. President.
Mayor, would you like to answer that? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's no problem. So obviously before you guys is the financial restructuring plan. There are obviously phases that we have worked with the finance committee to enter into. Councilman Olson, you were asking what triggers another phase. At this point, we believe that we know that sales tax is going to be down about 10 to 30% this year. What we don't know and what we are estimating is that state aid is going to be down between 20 and 30% this year. We've not received any information from the state budget office on that yet. We are eagerly awaiting information to see if any of our state aid is going to be cut. State aid amounts to just about $6 million for our budget. And if we receive a 20% cut in that, it obviously creates a huge issue. So phase 1 are basic cuts that we are looking to make. A lot of additional programs that we offer typically during the summer and just across the year. If we do see a cut in state aid of 20 to 30%, we would then start to look at phase 2 of this process.
So the short answer is we're not really sure. We're just going to have to wait and see.
That's
Hopefully,
correct. This is
hopefully we don't have to go any further, but we have a plan in place if need be, and we'll monitor it throughout the next several weeks to see where we're at.
When does sales tax report, the report from the county, come back? Or
Well, the second quarter sales tax would be would be April, May, June, so probably not until sometime in July we would know.
Thank you.
I had a question about the CHIPS money. Will we know this summer if there's going to be a cut in that or not? I know Jeff has got a lot of programs started, a lot of projects going. And that's a huge swing of money where it could be reduced between 300,000 and what was it, 800,000.
So, Councilman Sheldon, we actually cut the CHIPS budget. That's usually around $1.2 million. We cut it down to 800,000 and only prioritized the road construction programs we believe will be funded, or I should say refunded to the city or reimbursed to the city. The city does these projects and then asks for reimbursement from the state. The first reimbursement will be due in August. We are unclear if we will be allowed any further reimbursement beyond August. So we are trying to get those projects that are in the works now completed before that time and submitted for reimbursement. We did take about a third of that budget off that we normally budget for in anticipation of a reduction in aid.
So there could be a further reduction in the projects down the road, would you say?
There could be, yes. There are some street projects that haven't been started yet. If we find out that we're going to get a significant hit, we may halt those projects if necessary.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, would the clerk please poll the council on the resolution?
Councilman Sheldon,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Karuba,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Eklund,
Aye.
Graham Reinhardt,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Jols,
Aye. The resolution is passed. That would conclude this special portion or the special voting session.
President Dole?
Yes.
If I may, I just want to thank the Finance Committee members and all of my staff for going through and creating the financial restructuring plan with a completely and very tightly thin budget to pull out about $1.2 million in reductions in phase one is a very, very difficult thing to do. And I just want to thank all of the hard work and hours that went into creating this, both from my staff and from the council members that were involved in this. It is a very difficult time, but I know that as long as we continue to work together to get through it, we will get through it to the end of the year. So thank you.
And I just might add too that I want to thank your staff for getting on this and the Finance Committee. And, this is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever had to do this in midstream in the middle of the year to make these type of cuts, and certainly hope that we don't have to go any further. So we'll just keep a close eye on it, monitor it, and be ready if we have to, but hope for the best at this point. Our regular work session, I believe, is scheduled to start at 7:30. I would like to call an executive session for a few minutes under public safety and then resume our regular work session and committee meetings at 7:30. So if you could have a motion to go into an executive session.
So move.
I'll second it, Councilwoman Karuba.
Moved by Councilwoman Eklund, second by Councilwoman Karuba. Would the clerk please poll the council on it?
sure. Councilman Sheldon,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Karuba,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Eklund,
Aye.
Graham Reinhardt,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
and Jols.
Aye. So I'll give you a couple minutes. We're in executive session to turn the recording off for now. And then for the public's sake, we will be back at 7:30 promptly, ready to go for the committee meetings and work session for the rest of the evening.
Great. Please give me a minute. I'll let you know once we're cleared.
Tony, also, who do you want in the executive session?
I think everybody's fine. Okay, we good?
1 second. We are good.
Okay, we are back to the June 8th committee and work session of the Jamestown City Council. We've already called the roll for the special meeting. So at this time, I would ask the clerk, are there any comments that were given to us by the public?
There are. I have 4 emails to be read into the record. Before I do that, I wanted to point out for any members of the public that are listening, it is stated on the agenda, but just so everyone is aware, any public comment needs to be submitted in writing by 5 p.m. the day before the scheduled meeting via USPS mail or email to the clerk at cityofjamestownny.gov. We did receive a few today, which I received in time to forward them out and get them printed. But just going forward, if anybody has comments that they would like read into the record, if we could get those prior to the day of.
Thank you. With that, you go ahead and read them.
Okay. The first email is from Reverend Shiloh Smith. Dear Mayor Sundquist, my name is Reverend Shiloh Smith. Some time ago, I read a book by a former local doctor named George W. Lawn. The book is called Race, Religion, and Urban Renewal, Jamestown in the 60s. It is a detailed account of the civil rights movement right here in Jamestown, New York. He ends the book on a very hopeful note in 2001. It reads in part as follows, quote, City Hall is more welcoming to all citizens. Sam Teresi, a new kind of mayor, is a second-generation descendant of Italian immigrants. Racial and cultural diversity are welcome in City Hall. The Jamestown Police Department is adapting to millennium-inspired new ideas, community policing, an evolving way to seek input and talents of all members of the community. Jamestown Police Officer Barry Swanson is planning minority enrollment in policing careers. I say all of that to say that was 19 years ago. As of 2020, there is no community policing, and there has been very little, quote, minority enrollment in policing careers, unquote. On Friday at the Kneel Down protest with our local pastors and clergy, one of the pastors, Alfonso Pagan, shared that his son, Adrian Pagan, has been a part-time sheriff for 5 years, which means he has experience, and he is also Spanish speaking, which would be an asset. He has been passed over in the past, and we, the community, have been told there are no candidates, but isn't he one? Can he be considered and interviewed for one of the 3 openings on the Jamestown Police Department? Thank you, Reverend Shiloh Smith.
Thank you. Anyone who would like to respond to that? Not, you read the second one?
Sure. This is received to us from an Emily Glinick. To the city clerk, I have a public comment / question I would like read at today's city council public forum. To our local representatives, how do you plan to work with our local police department to provide them with better training, programs, and reform efforts? Specifically, I would like to see better recruitment and vetting of candidates, frequent and ongoing unconscious bias training, ubiquitous use of body cams, and a civilian review board. Thank you in advance, Emily.
Thank you. Anybody would like to comment on that? No, read the next one.
Okay. This comes to us from Christina Cardinelli. My name is Christina Cardinelli. I am a resident of Jamestown, New York. I would like to publicly address Jamestown City Council during their public forum / meeting on Monday, 6/8. I request this letter be read to the City Council publicly on my behalf. On 6/6, Councilman Jeff Russell posted the following message on social media. Quote, the answer to the question, why do you need an AR-15 and 30-round magazines, is on every news channel today, end quote. My first question addresses Councilman Jeff Russell directly. Councilman Russell, can you please clarify your comment in full detail? When I turn on any news channel, I see the Black community demanding the end to systemic racism. I am now under the impression a retired Jamestown police officer supports firing a semi-automatic rifle at Black Lives Matter protesters. In parentheses, she has a note to please allow some time for Councilman Russell to answer, or would you like me to continue the email before you do so?
I'll give a response now. And I also want to reiterate what you said, that we received these emails kind of at the last minute. So I didn't have a lot of time to digest this, but I do have a response for Ms. Cardinelli. I wrote down a response and I'll go ahead and read that now. Ms. Cardinelli, Thank you for your question. I'm happy to take this opportunity to respond. You are referencing a meme posted to my personal Facebook page on June 6th after the murder of St. Louis retired Captain David Dorn. This meme featured a comment about owning an AR-15 and was in support of the Second Amendment, guaranteeing our right to bear arms. My right to defend my home and my family, my fellow citizens' right to do the same. You are now attempting to create a controversy where controversy doesn't exist. You're trying to take an apple and turn it into an orange in one of the most disgusting acts of political gaslighting I've ever seen. I'm deeply disturbed by your effort to connect my support of the constitutional right to bear arms and morph it into a scene that has me advocating and or supporting violence against any human being, particularly the Black community. It's no secret we find ourselves in a tremendously difficult time in this country, but your efforts to score political points by cherry picking a singular Facebook post which never referenced violence against the Black community or peaceful protesters is the absolute worst political stunt of its kind. It's reprehensible, in fact. At a time when we should be coming together, divisive political trickery like you, a current candidate for political office, are displaying only highlights the reason a divide still remains. I would suggest that we could find commentary or photographs on any individual's social media accounts and try to spin those words or images to support a given narrative. But ma'am, that's irresponsible, particularly coming from someone who seeks to represent all citizens of this district, not just the ones who align with their own political ideologies alone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My second question addresses all city council members. Council members, how do you feel about a retired police officer and your fellow councilmen advocating for gun violence? What's the council's policy on social media conduct? And in parentheses, please allow some time for council members to answer and discuss. I don't know if that's something you want to address at this time.
I just want to go on record as saying that I don't believe that Councilman Russell advocated any gun violence. Councilman Russell was a 23-year police veteran with a stellar reputation in this community. He was elected at large by this community based on that reputation. He's worked with me in the school system. He is well-liked, well-respected by all the children, all the students, all the faculty, all the staff, and members of this community. And as far as social media conduct, we are elected officials. We're adults. We all make choices in terms of what we want to post. There's no rules, regulations, or laws regarding what we can and can't do. We all have First Amendment rights. And I would not advocate us starting to look at everybody's Facebook posts, Twitter accounts, and so forth to, as Councilman Russell said, start to cherry pick, start to look at. We all have our own political, religious beliefs, whatever, and we have a freedom to do that. And the consequences that could go with that, I think we all well understand. And so I just wanted to make that comment that I don't believe that Councilman Russell was advocating gun violence by that post. And again, he has a stellar reputation, and I wanted to put that in the record. Thank you.
My third and final question addresses Councilman Jeff Russell directly. Councilman Russell, some of our city council members attended the peaceful protests in Jamestown. I stood next to them in solidarity. Are you advocating for violence against us too? And in parentheses, please allow time for Councilman Russell to answer.
I stand by my original statement.
Thank you. She just closes. Thank you for your time addressing these questions, and provides her name and phone number at the end of the email.
Thank you. Want to move on to the next one?
Sure. This we received from Autumn Echo Swanson. It says, "This is my public commentary addressed to the Jamestown City Council. I intend for this to be read publicly at the City Council work session tonight, Monday, June 8th. My name is Autumn Echo Swanson, and I'm a resident of Jamestown, New York. This weekend, the Jamestown Justice Coalition organized a rally in support of the Black Lives Matter movement and in honor of George Floyd, a Black man that was murdered by Minneapolis police. This is the second rally organized by this group. Both rallies have seen poor attendance and support by city officials. I would like to know why the City Council has chosen not to support the Jamestown Justice Coalition when a large number of the constituents of the council, including those deeply and personally affected by the mission, are in support of the efforts being made by the coalition. The issue at hand, an issue for which Jamestown is not immune, concerns the poor training, systemic flaws, and overfunding that have led to rampant police brutality across this country. On a local level, we see multiple counts of socioeconomic instability among our minority communities, ranging from underfunded neighborhood development, disregard for the issue of food insecurity, lack of minority representation in decision-making, and a lack of support, education, and funding of minority-owned businesses in Jamestown. My question for the Jamestown City Council is this: where are you? We are at a turning point in history, a moment in time during which each individual community's elected officials will be held accountable for the way they choose to address systemic racism as it is affecting the community for which they serve. 4.7% of the population of Jamestown is Black. That is not accounting for other minorities. There appears to be a general disregard for certain pockets of the city of Jamestown where a large number of minorities live. Areas in Jamestown with larger minority demographics are deemed unfit for development and funding. I refuse to ignore the favoritism amongst the council to funnel money for community development only into gentrified areas of the city where it is deemed economically beneficial, while there are areas of the city disintegrating at the hands of socioeconomic abandon. The Jamestown Public Market has been pulling the weight our city council refuses to pull in regards to addressing the food deserts existing in the city, an ever-present issue with food insecurity that disproportionately impacts low-income minorities. I would like to urge the council to vote in favor of the ordinance to include the Jamestown Public Market and Mobile Market into city code, and to find a place in their budget to support the work of the Jamestown Public Market in making healthy, locally sourced food accessible to all members of our community. Here are my questions. I expect an answer for each question from each council member. Please take the time to respond accordingly. Number one, what does the council plan to do to encourage, support, and help fund the development of minority-owned businesses in Jamestown? Number two, how does the council plan to address any future issues of reported mistreatment at the hands of the Jamestown Police Department by any community members? Number three, how will offending officers be held accountable? Number four, will the council publicly support the mission of the Jamestown Justice Coalition? Thank you for your time. Autumn Echo Swanson, 130 Lakeview Avenue.
Anybody like to respond to that, or I just wanted to make one comment. Today I had a discussion with the mayor and the police chief and the chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Brent Sheldon, and we do plan to address many or all of these issues at a special work session of the Public Safety Committee. We'll sit down and we'll put a timetable to that. There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of issues, more that we can, again, we got this at the 11th hour, and more than we can digest and discuss here on a Zoom meeting when we have other things on our agenda this evening. So I've asked to, we'll convene a special meeting to look at some or all of these issues and work with members of the coalition and the community to answer these questions and move in a proactive way forward to address these. If there's anybody else who would like to comment on that, otherwise, I thank you for your time.
I would like to say, I have been an advocate for my community since I was 15 years old. when I first was on a board in my community in Ward 3. I will be 62 in July, and I have never stopped advocating for Black Lives Matter, because my life and the people in the community, just people of color, and all of, I know all lives matter, but we're talking about Black Lives Matter. And I have been an advocate for my community every day. Every day I wake up, I'm working on that. Personal, outside, just the community. And because if I don't make one event, don't tell me Black lives don't matter to me. Because like I said, I'm not going to say a lot right now because I needed to digest this, and I don't want to have too much of a gap. But I just want to let everybody know that this is an important thing to me, because Black Lives Matter it's always been. It's like I said, as a Black mother, a Black woman, a Black daughter, a Black aunt, I always have had this issue come to my face every day. So all I can say again is that it matters to me. The people in this community matter to me. And because I don't make one event does not make me care about being Black. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And I would love to talk to anybody about this further. You can you can contact me. My information is public. You can contact me. You can Facebook me. You can do. I just went for Jeff Russell. I tell him, I said, my husband has the utmost respect for him. He has worked with him. I don't know, I guess it's, I don't want to bring religion in, but you draw the line and you say those has the no sin, throw the first stone, without sin, throw the first stone. I don't know. And getting back to Pastor Smith's question about the police department, the vacancies, I would hope that, those people, I don't know how many people are going through the academy. I don't know I don't know what's going on with Pastor Pecan's son. Heard a little bit Friday when he talked about it. He's working part-time at the sheriff, part-time, I think. So I would hope that something could come out of that, as long as everything is in order. And I'm sure, we have to have civil service. And there's some other things, like reference. I don't know. I've never been on that interview process for that. But I would hope that, something could come out of that, out of 3. I don't know if there's exactly 3. I don't know how many positions, but I would hope that something could come out of that, because it's, because we do need representation. We have Officer Peach, who Detective hired. And so people do, like when you go to the store, you want to see you. You want, when you police department, you want to see you. And when you pay your bills, you want to see you. It's something that in our culture we want to see. It makes this is something that we look at when we go somewhere. Where are we? And also in saying that, we also have to be involved. We also have to, just because this thing is happening, which is a horrible and an exciting movement right now, we all still have to be involved. Come to city council meetings. I said it before, are your children go to school? Are you on the PTA? You got to be in there, these meetings they have, where, we just have to be involved. If we want our voices to be heard, we just can't do it at a Black Lives Matter rally. We have to be in there for everything. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, if I may, I just want to say that all 9 of us who ran for office did so because we cared about this community. Did so because we wanted to do everything that we could to make Jamestown a better place for its residents. And because someone doesn't attend a specific event doesn't mean that they don't care. doesn't mean that they don't understand or empathize or sympathize with the issue. So I would ask people to step back and take a breath and realize that the 9 people sitting here and the people who work for the mayor are all here and all still living in this city because we love this city and we want to do good things for this city. And if anyone wanted to look at any of our records and some of the things that we've done for this community, whether it's minority community, whether it's for kids, whether it's for our churches, we've been involved, many of us while we were council members and many of us before we became council members. And so just because people aren't visible doesn't mean that they aren't doing the work. And so to reiterate what Vicki has said, we welcome people to come to council meetings. We welcome people to come to work sessions. I would also encourage people to go onto the city's website, to look at the policies, to look at the information that we have up there. It's all up there for public knowledge. There are things that the city can do. There are things that we have to abide by law to do, state law to do. And so I just ask that people take some time to think about how we're going to move forward in a way that brings all of Jamestown in a direction that we want to see for ourselves and our children.
Thank you. Before we close this section and get into our routine business, again, I just want to reiterate that we do take these things seriously and we are going to move forward. We're going to work to address some of these issues, and where improvements can be made, we'll make those improvements, and we'll listen to suggestions within reason and what can and can't be done. And I'll reiterate a statement I made last week on one of my own social media posts that I put up after spending the entire day Sunday at 2 different rallies / protests downtown. I said I was very grateful at our community and the way they handle themselves. When you look across all across our nation and state, and you saw the violence and looting and destruction and all the bad things that were happening, for the most part, we came together as a community, black, white, Hispanic, young, old, whatever, Democrats, Republicans, and we had, for the most part, very peaceful demonstrations, and people were, for the most part, mindful and respectful, and we had good dialogue, and I was very proud to be a representative of this community because of that. Our police department worked extremely well that day. They were out, they were visible, they stayed back, they allowed the people to have their moment, obviously within reason, and there were no incidents, and that's the way it should be. And so in closing, I just want to say we'll move forward, and the dialogue will continue. So thank you.
Mr. President, can I just say one more thing? Just wanted to add to let the community also know that the mayor is going to be revising the Human Rights Commission also. So I don't know if, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mr. Mayor, but I don't know if you want to just say something, about that also.
Absolutely, Councilwoman James. I'm going to talk about that in remarks from the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Right, if there's nothing else on the public comment, I guess we can move on to our committee reports, our Finance Committee and Chairwoman Councilwoman Eklund.
Kim, I think you're muted.
Kim, you there?
Yep, sorry.
That's right.
We have one resolution and we have one item for discussion. The first is a resolution that came before. Resolved that effective immediately, the Jamestown City Council hereby suspends the hiring freeze instituted by resolution number 200201C03 and resolution number 200611B17, authorizing the filling of the following positions due to the essential nature of the position. 1 laborer, retirement funded in the 2020 general fund budget. This is in DPW, in case that wasn't clear.
It's actually in Parks, Kim.
Or Park, yeah, it's in your Ask Me Union, I'm sorry,
Right.
Parks Union.
Good. All right, any
Okay,
questions?
any
on that?
other questions? And then the second item for discussion is the update on the ambulance RFP. And I'm not sure who is going to be handling the lead on that, if it's Zach or the mayor or,
And before anyone addresses it, I did miss this email at the start because it was included in your agenda. So if I could just read the email that we received from Mr. Milne regarding this, I had told him I would read it into the record. And it reads, "Hello, Jennifer. I hope all is well. If you could pass this on to the council at the next meeting, that would be great. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Jessie Milne of 171 Myrtle Street. Many of the senior citizens and other members of our neighborhood have stopped and talked to me about the current EMS situation and asked if I would reach out to see what progress has been made. I know the date for the RFP was pushed back due to COVID-19. Any update would be much appreciated. Thank you to all of you for what you do and your commitment to our city. I am very truly yours, Jessie Milne, 171 Myrtle Street."
I'm happy to address it, Councilwoman Eklund. Is that okay? You went back on mute.
thank
Is that
you,
okay?
thank you.
So just an update for the public. We did push back the RFP because of COVID. We were hoping to get some additional responses from different ambulance companies. At this time, we are working or trying to work out an agreement with certain ambulance companies to see if there's some potential to provide additional services. In addition, we are talking to the county about some short-term support while we are in the process of figuring out a longer-term solution for the ambulance. I'm hoping to have more information for the council at the next work session as we've been actively working on it. And some members of our public safety committee have also been a part of those discussions as well.
Okay.
I don't believe we have anything else for finance.
Any other questions for finance? If not, I see there's nothing under housing.
Mr. President, if I could, did ask Crystal if she could give us an update on the fire that happened, and also if there was any information updating with the COVID-19 funding that she had received, if there was any thing that she would like to report or can report for us.
Sure. With regards to the fire, I think that Matt will speak a little bit more to this in a bit from the fire department's perspective, but there was a fire at the corner of Newland and Forest yesterday. The address was 262 Forest Ave. 6 residents and a number of I guess co-tenants, if you will, were displaced. The American Red Cross worked with them and is working to get them some temporary housing and assist them. The fire resulted in an emergency demolition. The owner is the landlord who owns a number of other properties in the city. He did have insurance, so we're working with him to get all of that sorted out. But the house has been demolished. It will be covered. It will have to sit in place for at least 10 days before it can be cleaned up. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it at this point. I think Matt will have a little bit more details as far as anything else goes with that. As far as the CDBG COVID response fund, we submitted our plan a couple of weeks ago, so it could be any day. As soon as HUD disperses the funds, we're ready to go. We'll get those rolled out and start getting people assisted with the rental assistance program. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for housing then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to public safety. Councilman Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a special event application for the Jamestown Public Market held on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. starting this Saturday, June 13th through October 31st. This is sponsored this year by St. Luke's Episcopal Church. There was a question on the application here, I guess. They originally wanted to have the location on 3rd Street, West 3rd Street between North Main and Cherry. But then it's scratched out and it lists Cherry Street as the address, which the location has been for several years. The question we have is they have signatures of businesses that approve of this, and most of those are located on 3rd Street. Have you ever got any other signatures from the other businesses on Cherry Street that are going to be affected by this? I know they supported in the past, but just curious if we've got any other businesses who approve of this. Jennifer, did you see anything or no?
No, and that, aside from, Covenant Manor, they were the only ones that signed that are actually in that location. There is, I had received an email from Tim Palmgren from Pearl City Botanicals with concerns regarding having the market on Cherry in front of that business, mostly on behalf, it seemed, of the Gypsy Moon Cake Company, being that in the past tents had been set up right in front of the business. So I forwarded his concerns on to Linnea Carlson from the market. She said they can't guarantee that they will be able to set up, and leave that open due to the COVID restrictions this year. They are having fewer vendors due to the pandemic, but they'll also have to space them further apart. He also didn't sign, he wanted the 2 parking spots left available in front of the business, but the barricades the street has to be closed off at the top and at the bottom. Linnea was going to reach out to Geneva at Gypsy Moon to see about getting her a booth at the market. I haven't heard any more from Linnea as far as that's concerned.
Okay, yeah, I know Geneva has had a booth there in the past.
Yeah.
Oops,
So they
hopefully
say that they try to put signs up to advertise his business. I don't know if he's currently open right now. It seemed to be, he was more concerned that that's Geneva's pickup time. She can only be open on Saturdays due to the pandemic. I don't know if that's changed at all with, the changes to the governor's executive orders, if she'll be open other days aside from just the Saturdays. But Linnea was going to work with her to work something out as far as that was concerned.
Can we make sure we get these addressed before the voting session? That is concerning for business who's had to struggle through the last 3.5 months of COVID as it is, and now you're putting a bigger burden on that. So if we don't have sign-offs from those businesses, I think that needs to be addressed.
Okay, I can reach out to Linnea again in the morning and see if she's gotten anywhere with that and see what his feelings are.
I mean, be able to reach a compromise. I just feel without their signatures, those things should be addressed.
Okay.
I don't want to shoot out any businesses that's running down there, especially on a 1 day a week.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Just a thought too, given that the Post Journal is closed on Saturdays now, I'm wondering whether they would be able to expand the market by using that portion below between First Street and between First and Second Street on Cherry that kind of cuts over a little bit. I'm wondering if that would allow Gypsy Moon to operate, but still have the spacing. And I don't know if they've given any thought to that, to expanding it, since Post Journal publishes on Saturday morning and that's it. And then once they're done, they're closed.
Right.
That the street is private.
What's that?
That is a private street that's owned by the post.
Right, but I'm wondering if they'd be willing, you never know. Because I think Friendly's Market Friendly's Restaurant had offered space down there and it was being looked at. I don't know if that's changed during the interim, but there's nobody there. And they thought that that parking lot, the business owner had actually offered it. The person that has the property.
Marie, I know that they did consider that as an option. They thought it would be great as far as distancing and the convenience of being able to kind of spread out all in that one parking lot. The concern came with residents, specifically from Covenant Manor and the hotel, getting to and from the market. They were trying to keep the food accessible to those individuals. So that was why
They continue to use.
they didn't go that route. Yeah.
If I could hop in for a second, I date Linnea Carlson, and I can confirm that she reached out to the business owners in question, but has received no reply. So if they have concerns, the onus is now on them to respond.
Agreed, but they should have signed the permit, Ben, and their signatures on that. So I guess that would be where I would see the pushback could come. If they're, a personal reach out is great, but if they're not signed off on that permit, it's gonna become you're a lawyer, his word versus her word. So.
Well, and I would also, I guess, jump to her defense a bit. They were planning on having it on 3rd Street till maybe less than a month ago. So even in the times of COVID, it's kind of been hard to make that transition to actually, getting out and getting signatures. Usually this is something that she's working on throughout the entirety of the off season. And she had been working on it through the entirety of the off season under the assumption that it would be on 3rd Street. So she's just really rushing to play catch up with that transition and it being so close to when the market season opens. But I hope she'll be able to reach a solution.
Completely understand. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying to cover our end and her end, as well as those businesses in that area, they should sign off on the permit. I somehow
agree.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, this special event doesn't usually go through the full council for approval. It just goes through the public safety. And since the first event is this Saturday, I think we do need to vote on this, maybe, and put the condition on there that we do get signature sign-offs from a majority of the business owners.
That would be up to the committee to make that recommendation.
And if we don't get the signatures in time, or are you anticipating being able to work this out before Saturday, I guess? Because I do think Kim brings up a good point.
Yeah, hopefully we can get the signatures to the city clerk by Friday. And maybe we can just put that as a condition on the approval. So if I can get a motion from you or Jeff.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Second item we had is the banner request from Joanne Bean for the Jamestown High School Spring Senior Athletes. We approved this through email approval. All 3 members approved it. And I also held a vehicle parade there. I believe it was last Thursday.
Right.
And the banners are up. They look great. Do any action on that? Third item is a tour rate card request from Victory Auto. And we have a note that all certificates of insurance have been approved. The rest of the paperwork, I think, was in order. Can I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Right.
Hey,
Fourth item was a request for 2 handicap parking spots located in front of Patient's Pharmacy. And I know the mayor requested that the DPW director, Jeff Lehman, take a look at that. Do you have a report at this point, Jeff?
We don't. We'll have it at the next one, at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting then. All right, so some items for discussion. Everybody should have received the ordinance amendments for outdoor dining, the public market, and I believe there's some amendments to the noise ordinance. Will everybody have a chance to review those? Quite lengthy.
No, I just got mine.
I was gonna say, we just got the updates to the noise and ordinance amendment just a little bit ago.
We could table that for the next meeting, so we can read through that.
Councilman Sheldon, if I may, I just want to let folks know my staff has been working to prepare based on conversations we've had with council members and the public, the 3 different pieces of legislation and a pilot program, which you're going to get to. Outdoor dining creation in the code, an ordinance allowing the public market officially, as well as a noise ordinance. Our intention was to get that to you guys today, to allow our staff briefly explain those 3 if you are willing, and give some time for the public and you all to kind of think it through, comment on it. And then if we decide to take action, we would most likely call a special meeting so that those types of ordinances could be in effect by the time restaurants could or should be open in the next week or so. So if, Councilman, if you're willing, I'd love to have my staff just explain the 3 amendments and ordinances that we put together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Mr. Ramondo, if you're still on the call, if you could explain the outdoor dining.
Yes, the outdoor dining ordinance is a mixture of an ordinance that will address mobile food vehicles as well as sidewalk cafes in section new chapter 190 of the Jamestown City Code entitled Outdoor Dining. It would regulate food trailers, food trucks, and any type of mobile food vending. That would be regulated by a permit process and would have to be in compliance with all Chautauqua County Health as well as New York State Liquor Authority laws. We've built into the code, we've used the City of Buffalo, City of Rochester, Ithaca, and Geneva's code as framework for these items, but we have attempted to help local businesses that are looking at food trucks as well as food carts by regulating that vendors shall be have to be 100 feet from the closest point of the restaurant seating area as approved by the city. So that what that means on layman's terms is if you have a food truck, you can't be within 100 feet of the closest local business unless you have a local business within that square footage.
Elliot, was it
yes.
100? When we talked today, you said 100 yards. Is it 100
Yep.
feet or 100 yards?
It is 100 feet in the current drafting. I'm looking at that right now. Now that can obviously change based upon the council's wishes as well as comments.
Just to add my sense, just to some concerns, I got some phone calls, as I know the mayor did as well, from some of the local businesses. And while it's great that some of the local businesses have food carts, others of them are in locations such as where they cannot, I know we've talked about it, have sidewalk dining because of hill, whatever the case may be. So they don't want to get pushed out by other vendors coming in with a food cart or truck. So I think I'm okay with the food truck theory and all this stuff, but I think we need to talk a little bit more about the distance. 100 feet is not very far for a restaurant such as something, and then to have Lloyd's come down and pull a truck in 100 feet and compete with them. We need to think of our local businesses and support our locals and make sure they're protected first.
Yes, 100 feet was in the Rochester statute and as well as in Buffalo, but obviously we can revisit it to provide so that doesn't happen to our local businesses.
Can I throw out some perspective here? Most of our blocks are 300 feet long.
Mhm.
If you
Thank
say
you.
300 yards, you're talking
A football field.
basically a 6-block.
I wasn't thinking 300 yards, Jeff. I just said 100 feet is
Just
really
give me-
too close, too close. I mean, right next door, you have Lysandro's, the pub, and across the street, you have Havana, and you could have 2 food trucks come in and knock out their business for the day. I mean, let's face it, downtown is fighting for business as it is. Lysandro's and Crown Street have struggled these last 3.5 months. I don't want to see them close their doors any more than the rest of us do.
I will add, based on the research from other cities, most hover anywhere between 100 to 250. There's been a lot of legal challenges for things that have gone over 500 feet in terms of access. So obviously there's, depending on what the council wants to do, we can be pretty flexible. If you think of 100 feet from a business at 2nd and North Main, or excuse me, 250 feet, you're looking at really the end of the block, right? So those are things we can start to look at, and we're open to recommendations from the council, obviously, on changing that and having further discussions on it.
I just wanted to add in that I also have been fielding some phone calls from local business owners. The one gentleman that I spoke to said that, the last 3 months, and I'll use his words, have been the most difficult time in his life as far as his business life, trying to stay afloat. He said he's been basically keeping his restaurant open via loans. And he wanted for me to be his voice and to stress that he is against this idea. And I told him that I would project his concerns.
If I may also add in, there's a lot of different cities across the nation that if they do have higher limits or higher footage away from a business, they also add in a provision that says, or by consent of the restaurants on that block. So that might be a good compromise if you guys want to do a bit higher range, and then also add a provision of or consent of the restaurants in that area.
I'm okay with
Just
that.
remind everybody that we don't have any regulations currently that would prevent that. So this is something that we really need to look at doing. And I think 250 feet is acceptable. Yeah, 100 feet I think is too short.
Okay. I will add that we have 500 feet from festivals in the version currently written or special events.
Could you repeat that? I had trouble. You faded out.
Oh, we have 500 feet from special events or festivals right now.
Okay.
And we know that 500 feet, and I'm asking the question, is acceptable for festivals, and that because it's a festival or it's a one-time weekend thing? But I mean, essentially the food trucks could stay there all week or in competition with their hours, I guess. Is that?
If they were granted, as it's the statute's currently written, if they were granted permits away from the festival for 500 feet through that permit process that we would have, they could conceivably stay there the whole week as long as they were 500
Or the
feet.
whole summer or whatever, I guess. That's what I'm asking. Those permits can be obtained for any length of time, correct?
Yes, if we granted those permits, the permit process would have to go through the Public Safety Committee But conceivably, we could have a food truck, if it paid its parking fees and was approved through the Public Safety Committee, they could set up shop at a specific location and stay there.
It is a lot in parking fees per quarters in the meter.
Do you have any idea how many people are actually considering food trucks or food carts? I mean, are we talking 10 people, 2 people? Any range, or are there people really actually expressing an interest in bringing food carts or food trucks on a, when we don't have special events going on?
I've heard of 2.
We've actually had more than that. We've had at least one food truck, one food trailer, and Clerk Williams, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had a couple carts being requested as well.
Are they all by local businesses or outside agencies?
They're all local businesses to my knowledge.
So they have a restaurant already and they would probably perhaps set up in their restaurant area. Is that their intention in your conversations?
I'm sorry, say that again, Councilman Eklund. They're set up.
If they're already local restaurants, are they thinking of setting up in front of their business or like having their business plus another one 6 blocks down? I mean, what are their intentions, I guess?
It varies. Some would like to set up in their business. Some are, for example, one is a catering company that doesn't have a first floor location. So they'd like to have a first floor street level option. Others have said that they just want to be able to take their product and go a little bit farther out. And some just want to be able to have like a cart of some sorts to sell on the sidewalk areas.
We have had one request for Tracy Plaza as well. Okay, I will move on to the Sidewalk Cafe permit. That was previously under section 245 of the code. Work. Hello?
Yeah, I lost him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can still hear you.
Yep, we're moving to the Sidewalk Cafe permit that was previously under section 245 of the code. This would move to 190-4 of the code. In essence, it is the same Sidewalk Cafe permit that was under section 245. However, I did take out the provision that banned the playing of recorded music from that section of the code in favor of allowing recorded music if it was allowed by its permit for the Sidewalk Cafe.
Well, just going back to the mobile food trucks, what is the proposed fee for a permit for a food truck to be in the city of Jamestown?
We are still working on that specific permit portion. We have the statute here, but the fee would be based upon the permit, and I would defer that to Crystal as far as the permit fee.
And I think that we haven't come up with a specific amount at this point. Part of it is going to depend on how this ordinance is approved. So the specifics as far as distance and then specific locations. We've talked about tying that to parking spaces and what the cost would be for a period of time. So that's a detail that we still need to work through.
Isn't it, what is it currently? Is it, I was told that, I don't know if this is correct, that it's $500 for a permit currently?
There's an annual peddler's fee, which that is $500.
Okay.
And is there still a veterans exemption for that?
I'm not
There's
certain.
currently I'm sorry. There's currently a veterans exemption on the peddler's fee. A veteran can get a peddler's fee at no cost, or peddler's permit at no cost.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, May we move on to the noise ordinance? If there's no further questions on these two statutes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So the noise ordinance, the edits that I've made or proposed to be made is to amending chapter 198-2 of the Jamestown City Code. In essence, the ordinance would remain the same as it's currently written. However, we would clean it up by introducing a definitions section as well as the idea of decibels. Also in the definitions section, we would clearly define day versus evening hours. So if we look at our zoning code in section 300 of the zoning code, we have land conservation and then residential 1, residential 2, and then residential commercial. We would define day hours to be between 7 a.m. through 9 p.m. in residential zones, except Fridays and Saturdays when those evening hours would begin at 10 p.m. For commercial and manufacturing zones as defined by the current zoning code, day hours would be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And then Fridays and Saturdays, those hours should be extended to 11 p.m. We would also introduce the idea of, right now we have enumerated noises that are considered unreasonable, and we would introduce non-listed noises by virtue of a decibel limit being introduced into the code. And we would have either a code enforcement officer or one of our police officers would have a decibel reader. And in residential areas during evening hours, if a noise, if a subject noise exceeded the ambient noise, which is the background noise of the area, by 5 decibels, there would be a violation of the code. And if it was during the daylight hours, if there was an excessive ambient noise, excessive decibels by 10 decibels over the ambient noise level, that would be excessive.
Sorry, but this is a finance question for me. Who and how are we paying for all those meters, and who's carrying them? I mean, is every police officer going to be equipped with one, and every DOD, and how are we paying for that? Sorry, that's the bean counter in me.
Yes, so that was a question that we had, when looking at this. So there were 2 solutions that we looked at. One was a simple Google search of how do we measure noise decibels if we were going to put that into the code. Is we had applications on our phone that measured the decibels, as well as the fact that decibel readers ranged from $20 to $75 online. Now, I don't think we would need numerous decibel meters, but just enough to have a few to be contained in the JPD-J car, as well as maybe in the code enforcement office.
Great. Is this what other municipalities do?
Yes, as far as the decibel limits, we followed more the Buffalo model of basing decibel reading based upon ambient noise. I know with the city of Ithaca, they had actual readings of 80 decibels is too much, 90 decibels is too much, and going forth with actual decibel readings, but I used a range here, looking at Buffalo, Rochester, Ithaca. Now, one of the things that I know was raised that we could add to our noise ordinance was the issue of fireworks had become a problem and a point of discussion. So we could put that under our general unreasonable noises for nighttime.
What about from a public safety standpoint? A large problem in the city is the loud music, bass coming from moving vehicles. How would we address that?
Well, that's technically in our code already under unreasonable noises, and it was covered under subsection 13A, where the operation, the playing of any audio, music player, or audio system in a motor vehicle at such volume as to disturb the quiet comfort or repose of other persons, or at such a volume which is plainly audible to persons other than the occupants of such vehicles banned. The operation of any of the above in such a manner as to be plainly audible at a distance of 10 feet from the vehicle in which it is located shall be prima facie evidence of a violation of this subsection.
Okay,
I think the toughest thing with it. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's the toughest thing with our ordinance. It's kind of cumbersome and it's hard to enforce is the problem. is just catch someone in the act.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very clear of the complaints that I've received. It gets very difficult, especially by the time someone arrives, which is no fault of the police. They have a lot of other things to address, that they may not have the same noise level when somebody approaches. The question I have is, how are you going to determine what the ambient noise level is? How far an area around the area of the offense is considered the ambient noise level? I mean, I can tell you right now, motorcycles flying up Halleck, I can hear them at my house, five houses down, going up the hill. And that's really loud. And I've gotten a lot of complaints. The police have stepped up enforcement, but every once in a while you get somebody going through with a motorcycle that's probably louder than the bass on a car. So I just want to know what ambient noise level, how are you determining that? Because that's your baseline. And then you're talking about decibels above the baseline of the ambient noise level. Where is the range that you're figuring that out from?
Well, I think in practice, it would go under in that section from the methods of measurement. And the measurement would be taken from the area where the complaint is happening. As far as figuring out what is that base level, the officer, the code enforcement officer would need to take an ambient noise level in that neighborhood without the noise, or sufficiently far away from the noise to see what that ambient level would be.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Where are you taking the measurement to determine the ambient level, to then determine that they exceed the ambient level by the number of decibels that you specified? Because that's a problem, because if you're, depending on the location around the corner, it might not be too bad, but if you're looking at the house right next door, it's way too loud. So where are you figuring out the ambient level from? Is there a distance from the noise that you're measuring? How far out is the ambient noise level?
I think that's something that I need to revisit. There is how you get the first baseline level.
You're going to have to do that in order to charge someone that they're exceeding the ambient noise level if you don't have a baseline.
Okay. I can tell you our conversation right now is approximately 60 decibels, but it varies, especially at nighttime.
And I can tell you, if you're measuring barking dogs and then you've got somebody playing loud music, the ambient noise level might not be that different.
No. Okay, then we will go back to the drawing board on this. If there's no further questions on this, I'll ask Ben to speak about the public market ordinance.
Just a quick question, Elliot. I see you mentioned day hours during the week are 7 and 9, and then Fridays and Saturdays will be 10. So does that mean we're using the special event permit for those organizations that want to go later than 10? Are we still using that process?
Yes, we would have to use a permit process if they were going to violate the noise ordinance or have their event past 10 p.m.
As it currently stands, isn't it 9 p.m. is the cutoff, and we're making exceptions all the time to extend it to 10 p.m. This would just kind of make it the norm that 10 p.m. was okay. We'll extend it to 11. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes. So in the current noise ordinance, we don't have a specified time. I believe it's in the permit section for that time period, but this would have that effect of raising the time period to 10.
So that, yeah, Timu, it's increasing it to what people normally have asked for to wind it down by 10. Now you're going to be looking at 11 or 12 o'clock if people want to extend it. And that's going to be, maybe we won't have people asking for the exceptions and having to apply for the permit as much as they did. But
Right.
I guess we're going to have to be firm if people in the downtown areas where they live, now you're talking 11 or 12 o'clock for an extension. So.
Right.
I would add that would just be on Fridays and Saturdays.
Right. No, I know. I realize that. It's just, but that's when most of those events occur. They're typically Fridays and Saturday nights.
But you're right. Hopefully it would if you're, they're just not asking for that special event for that extra hour because now we've extended the time.
Right, right. It may cut down, it may just, people may be asking to extend it to the later
Party
hour.
till 2.
Yeah, right, right, you know, but I mean, you may get fewer requests, but you may get requests that still want it to go further, so
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to, you know, see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Ben?
I was just making sure that it was actually time to be. Didn't
Sorry,
want to
sorry, we
interrupt
didn't mean-
anyone with any questions on the previous stuff. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the public market ordinance. There's essentially two major parts. The first sets out another chapter in the city code entitled Public Market. This is modeled on what Rochester has done. They operate probably, I think, what's generally deemed to be the most successful farmers market in the state of New York. And they have largely been able to do that because they've ensured that their city code has laid out kind of guidelines for how it works. I'm going to try to just highlight the big points because this first part is rather long. Starts with definitions. I'll answer any questions on those at the end. Then it goes to where the public markets are permitted to be. Generally, commercial industrial is, they're a little more free to be there. Whereas if you're in a residential zone, you can technically operate, obviously still following any permitting requirements, but on a lesser scale. It requires that a site plan is submitted with the permit application. I think something like this will be helpful in terms of dealing with some of the issues we discussed earlier. The site plan will be required to show where things will be set up, how they will interact with the surrounding community. So I think that's an important addition, especially in light of the conversations we've had tonight. So then there's a section kind of just setting forth specific criteria that the retail sales area of the market will include all stands, booths, tables, etc., plus the adjoining kind of walking area between them. The height, basically, this is just saying that it will conform to the height restrictions in the zoning code in the area. In that zoning district, it shouldn't be a big issue. I don't believe they have tents that are higher than maybe 8 feet tall at their peak. It ensures that there's accessible parking at the site for the vendors. That is something that has been an issue in the past. But it also ensures that the parking by the vendors doesn't impact the surrounding community, and that there's time limits on when those vendors' vehicles can be in the area. Basically rules on the hours of operation, that sunrise to sunset, so there won't be like farmers markets going on at 9 o'clock at night, and that if it's in a zoning district, there's a greater need to have approval overhead in terms of actually allowing it. So once again, in residential areas, there is stricter requirement to take in the concerns of the surrounding community. There's a whole long list of market operations. I'll highlight some of the big ones. They have to have a manager. They have to have their own set of operating rules, which are on display at the market. At least 75% of the products have to be either farm products or value-added farm products. So I guess you can't have like someone coming in claiming to be a public market that has like, just like a bunch of people selling non-food products and then just tacking on like one person selling food products to try to fall under the definition of public market under the ordinance. If it also mentions that if there is city electric accessible at the site, that they should be given access to it. That's mainly so that their tablet that they use to process SNAP transactions is able to have a source of power. Anyone operating there has to obviously meet and show that they have any permits or licenses required by the New York Department of Agriculture and the local health department. The market manager has to have copies of these in their possession to show. And then it also sets aside a significant section on the mobile market. And I think the city should be really proud of itself on this. Linnea attended the National Farmers Market Conference earlier this year. And of like the 350 cities whose markets were present, we are one of only 2 cities nationwide that even has a program like this. So we're really on the forefront of it. And I think if this passes, something we can really kind of promote to show that we're moving forward in a good direction. Mobile market is different in some respects from the farmers market. It's more about ensuring access to food in low income communities that are deemed food deserts under FDA guidance. So this is more of a thing where they basically, St. Luke's has acquired an SUV and a trailer that they will take from place to place. Currently, they're doing it on Wednesdays, but it is the hope they'll expand to at least 2 days a week at a time when they find that viable. And it allows them to do this at nonprofit or private properties, assuming they have the approval of whoever the owner of that property is, though I would assure you that Linnea would probably never just pop up onto someone's property and try to hand out veggies. And it allows the use of this in parks as well. The one park that, or I guess it's not even technically a park, but the one city-owned property she's looking at is the Tower Park up at the top of Willard, just because that's one of the worst food deserts in the area. And if she can get approval, she'd love to take the mobile market there to that neighborhood, because there's not a lot of viable options really out that way. Let's see, what else am I missing? So the mobile markets will be subject to annual agreements that can be reviewed any time of the year. And the agreement can be revoked if there's non-compliance on the mobile market's part. A bunch of just general kind of housekeeping stuff. Cannot block any sidewalk, and that it may not operate within 500 feet of the public entrance of an established business offering similar products during the hours. So they won't be able to set up the mobile market close to a grocery store or other vendor that is selling fresh produce. We're pretty generous in terms of the hours of operation in this, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, Saturday. As I said, right now, they're generally only operating on Wednesdays, and that's from about 9 to about 4. But they are looking, if once they can achieve greater viability, to expand to multiple days and more locations. This gives them a little leeway to do that. They have to have signage letting people know where complaints can be submitted. And that's pretty much the new chapter on mobile markets. The second big operative thing in this portion of the ordinance is just an amendment to chapter 193-7 of the Jamestown City Code. That has generally disallowed people from selling or offering for sale or rent any goods or wares on park reservations in the city. The exception would allow both the public and mobile market to utilize parkland if obviously the permit was granted once again, and also would allow any special event vendors as defined under chapter 249-2 of the city code to be allowed to operate in parks during a special event, assuming that they are paying the already spelled out special event vendor fees. So it basically is opening our parks to allowing these events. I think when Crystal and I were discussing this, the kind of purpose was twofold. One, just generally, if we had a park for the farmers market, I know the Village of Fredonia, for instance, that's what they do. It does cut down on a lot of the potential kind of dissension with local businesses you might be blocking out. Parks tend to have a greater amount of accessible parking surrounding them. And also just, it's a good way to maybe bring people who otherwise wouldn't go to our parks to get there and kind of really enjoy the great parks we have in this city. I guess that's it for my presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions anyone from the council may have.
Anything? Okay.
And then we have the Parklet pilot program. I'm not sure who's going to address that.
Councilman Sheldon, we're gonna have Crystal Surdick from the Department of Development walk us through this program. Just before she begins, we've been discussing trying to put together a pilot program to allow more space for our restaurant owners across the city, not just in the downtown core. I will note, and this is probably news to my staff today as well, but I got off the phone with the State Liquor Authority today, and cities that do utilize any municipal space along with a restaurant that has an active license, the city may, in conjunction with the State Liquor Authority, authorize that restaurant to serve alcoholic beverages on that public space. So it has to be within line sight, which would mean either a sidewalk or a parklet of that area. There's one application the city fills out to sponsor it. But if we go forward with this parklet program, we will be able to allow our restaurants to not only serve in these spaces, serve regular food, but also alcohol as well in a controlled manner. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Crystal to talk a bit about the Parklet program that her office and the rest of my staff have worked to develop.
Thank you. So this is a program that we've seen. We actually kind of emulated a number of other programs from across the country. Parklets is not a new thing nationwide. It's relatively new, I think, in the state of New York. It's something that we've seen kind of expanding over the past 5 years or so. But parklets started to pop up more so on the West Coast in the 2010s sort of, so past 10 years or so. So we had some really great precedents to look through and help us sort of build the foundation for this program. It's a pilot program, which means it's sort of fluid. We've done our best to go through and sort of customize it to our specific community. But we know that we haven't done this before. This is something that we want to introduce as a way to support our businesses that are struggling with the state's approval to allow outdoor dining and to expand out into the sidewalk areas. We have a number of, we have very few sidewalk areas that are really conducive to outdoor dining. There are a couple of spaces, but there's really not a whole lot, particularly in the downtown business district. So we kind of put our heads together. We had a group of local business owners, restaurateurs who approached us. We had a couple of council members who worked on this, really just a few discussions. And so this was our first draft that we're presenting to you. And it's meant to be, like I said, it's meant to be a working kind of project. I think that we'll learn as we go. But for the most part, we've tried to look at it from a public safety perspective, and also from the perspective of how are we supporting our local businesses, especially in this time of need. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions. I'm happy to answer any of them, but this will be a program that it works in conjunction with our existing encroachment permit process. We are adapting our encroachment application. So it will cover rights of way as well, all in one application. And then the supplemental information that will require specific to parklets will be something that we will add as part of that application process. So I know you guys got this afternoon and maybe haven't had a whole lot of time to digest it, but I'm happy to answer anything now and at any point in time.
If I could add, just to Crystal's point, we will put all of the documents you received today up on the website, both for the council members and for the public to provide comments. But I do have to say, I'm very excited and really in awe of the team that we have here, as well as some of the council members and the members of the public that help to kind of start to put this together, at least a draft of it. Just to put this in perspective, New York City is the only other city in New York State that has a program for parklets. Olean is probably the only other one. They actually put a park on a sidewalk, but to put actual public space in a parking spot is something that no other city has done except for New York City. So we are actually on the cutting edge of this, which is really incredible. And we're excited to be able to offer this to our restaurants and businesses across the city. So this is really great stuff. We'll put it up for public comment as well as for comment from you guys. And keep in mind, we decided to do this as a pilot program and not actual legislation, so that we could see how it works this year, to get a better understanding, see how often it is utilized. And if it works really well, we can talk about codifying it.
Just a question. So when you say pilot program, are these the businesses that will be in this program? And what does since I haven't had a chance to look at the actual document, what does a pilot program, pilot program look like? You're talking about starting it this summer? Is that what you're saying? So what does that look like and who's in the program, or what is that?
So businesses that would like to participate would apply. They would submit an encroachment permit, and then there's a process that we go through. So we receive that permit application. We would review it at a staff level. So that would include Department of Development staff, myself, Larry Scalise, DPW, so Jeff Lehman, Rob Smith with the fire department. He's their code enforcement officer. And then depending on the specific location, there may need to be some review by the BPU. There are specific requirements that utilities cannot be blocked and that sort of thing. So that would all be part of the review. If there are any additional, supplemental information that we would ask to see, we would let the business owner know that. And then after that, of course, public safety would have to review it as well and give their recommendation before they're issued their permit. So there's a $75 permit fee, which is the standard encroachment permit fee. And then for parking spaces, it would be a $200 per space per season fee that would go with that. And, it doesn't have to specifically be, I think that restaurateurs would be the most likely candidates for this program. It could be, other downtown retailers as well that really want to need the extra space in order to be able to expand that business opportunity for them so that they're able to run their business in a way that is safe for their customers and for their staff.
Okay.
Just like to note the JRC announced that they do have grant money that help with the outdoor cafes, and I would assume the Parklet program at this point. So the city does not have the money, but it would be through the JRC.
That's right.
Crystal, how did you arrive at the $200 per space per season? So if they wanted 2 spaces, it would be $400.
That's correct.
What was the $200 figure based on?
That was a calculation made based on the average cost for parking per spot per day that the maximum that we would receive in revenue. So that would offset any lost revenue. We would not actually lose that revenue.
Would they, I guess the other question I would have, would they have to get any sign-offs by anybody in proximity to them in terms of their businesses? Because as we're talking about the patient's pharmacy that wants 2 handicap parking spaces on Main Street, now if somebody else says, I want 2 for my Parklet, and before you know it, there's no parking on that street or that side of the street, would they have to get any agreement from the surrounding businesses of any kind to go along with this just because of the number of spaces available to the other businesses? I don't know. Just like with the public market, excuse me.
Yep. So there are certain restrictions as far as if there are designated handicap spots, those are not allowed to be used for parklet spaces. Any other stipulations as far as, specific, I think that's something that we need to discuss, right? I think it's, the space has to be directly in front of their business or along the frontage of their business. I think that it's something that we may want to consider. They would likely, I guess the argument is that spot that they are expanding their business into, right? That could potentially be detracting from the parking that their customers would normally park in. If the business owner that is applying for the parklet or the encroachment application, if they feel strongly enough that the parklet would enhance their business and give them more opportunity for revenue, and their customers may have to park a few blocks away, I think that's just as much that individual businesses kind of determination. I can kind of see it both ways, right? It could potentially take away from some of their own customer parking, but at the same time, it's giving them an opportunity
it can also
to have more. Sorry, Kim, go
for
ahead.
that business owner, but I think what Maria is saying, that you have two businesses next to each other and you've got two spaces already gone for parking for handicap. Business A wants to take two parklet spots. Business B, who isn't a restaurant, but is next door, may suffer because of that. So I see what she's saying.
Thank
Sure.
you. Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about, as you mentioned, you've got Lissandro's in the pub, and then you've got I can't, there's that, oh shoot, the Landers Men's Shop, and you've got, a financial advisor on the other side. Well, if all these spaces are taken up, now you're going to get the business owners complaining that people who want to use their business to come in and out can't park. I'm not opposed to this, but I just think you're going to have to be really careful as to how many spaces and where they are and how much parking is going to be utilized or taken up by the parklets, so that other businesses aren't impacted by people that need to pull up, go in, get merchandise and come out and leave. And they're only going to be there briefly. Kim's right. That's what I'm trying to say, that other businesses may have serious objections if too many of these spaces are taken up by the parklets, and how many is there going to be within a block. Only so many spaces can be taken for the parklet, so that you still have other parking on the street for people who need to use it for other reasons.
I will jump in just to add that all of these parklet permits do need to go through public safety. So that is an opportunity to hear those concerns and also to kind of make those final decisions. So if we feel like maybe there's too many parklets on that area, we can, as a public safety committee, make the decision to say, no, we got too many going on right now.
I've seen in my research with other municipalities that have done this, there are a number of them that will limit, the total number of parklets that are allowed in a particular area. So in a central business district, for instance, and it's, based on number of parking spaces that are already available in that district, but, access to other parking opportunities. So, for instance, we do have ramps that are available for parking. So looking at that, when we do the review, looking at the proximity to where the parklet is proposed to be, and that proximity to the ramp parking space is something that I think should be part of the consideration when these are reviewed.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Crystal? All right. Well, next item was an update on the ambulance RFP. We've already heard about that, so we'll pass on that. I would just like to ask Deputy Chief Coons or Chief Snellings if they can address the fire at 262 Forest Avenue and the investigation that is ongoing there.
Matt, you want to hit the fire side?
Certainly. Good evening, guys. As you know, we had a fire yesterday morning. It was about 5 minutes to 7 in the morning at 262 Forest. It's on the northwest corner of Forest and Newland. There were 12 residents displaced as a result of the fire. When the crews got up there, they found that the fire was mostly at the basement level, but it fully involved one whole side of the house. All the occupants had evacuated safely on their own prior to their arrival. They used a defensive operation to control and extinguish the fire. I believe the fire did extend all the way from the basement level all the way up to the roof level. The cause has been determined incendiary, which means it was intentionally set. One dog and 2 cats did perish in the blaze. We were assisted at the scene by JPD, obviously, National Fuel. The BPU came to cut power to the building, and the Red Cross is assisting the fire victims.
So the investigation pretty much was completed before the house was demolished?
The investigation, the on-scene investigation was completed there. The house was demolished, as you know. We're going to be coordinating with Jamestown Police further. The investigation is not closed. It is still ongoing.
Okay.
Brent, we have,
Yes, Chief.
You're muted, chief.
Got it. We did interview one witness and we do have a suspect.
Very good. Thank you.
Guys, just for clarification, there were no reported injuries. There was nobody transported from the fire scene. All the working crew did not have any injuries, nor did any civilians that were located at the scene.
Good news. That's all I think that's on the agenda for public safety tonight, unless anybody else has any other questions or you'd like to say anything.
Okay, yes, we can move on to Public Works and Councilwoman, or Councilman Nelson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a resolution that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Robert and Paula Hofgren, 80 Fluvanna Avenue, Jamestown, to acquire a permanent utility easement from Robert, for a permanent utility easement that is to be used by the Department of Public Works for the construction of a stormwater detention project at SBL parcel number 370.10-3-25 and parcel number 370.10-3-38. And this is again to facilitate construction of a city-owned underground stormwater detention facility subject to approval of corporate council as to form. Jeff, anything you'd like to add? I know this was something back in February that we'd talked about.
Right. Yeah, this is the federal play stormwater detention pond. Essentially what we're doing, originally we were going to build it on a city-owned lot that is surrounded by the Hofgren's property. It's a wooded lot. After we worked with them over the past few months, we came to the determination it might be better to put it up on the upper portion of their lot that it's cleared. And they had interest in the city lot. So we agreed in form to put it up on the upper portion of the lot and sell them the city lot. So I think it's sort of a win-win for everyone. And that's
the second resolution.
And that's a second resolution, right? So both these resolutions are based on this.
Yeah, and that's that the mayor be authorized to enter an agreement with Robert and Paula Hofgren, 80 Fluvanna Avenue, Jamestown, in exchange for permanent utility easement for parcels that I mentioned. The city of Jamestown will convey parcel number 37010-3-25 to Robert and Paula Hofgren per appraisal done by Kevin Oakland, assessor for the city of Jamestown. So that's all we had. Anything else on that, Jeff, that you wanted to?
Well, again, I sent out a package of basically the same information.
Right.
Take a look at it this week. If you have questions, just let me know. Pretty straightforward, though.
I might add, she was instrumental in getting the upgrades to the Roseland Park Playground. She was involved with that many years ago, and especially in getting the accessibility features there. So she's been a real good steward in that neighborhood. So I think this is a win-win.
Yeah, and that's all we had for Public Works. The other item for discussion was the one on the handicap parking that we decided to table next meeting.
Any questions for Public Works? Okay. If not, I guess it's mayor time. Mayor Sundquist, if you have anything that you'd like to add tonight.
That statement sounds like you don't want me to say anything, President. I do have just a couple of things. I'm sorry?
No, it's good. You're good.
Okay. And we have, but listen, we're getting busy here. We've been waiting to try to get a lot of stuff done, and we're excited. I just have a couple items for general session, and then I've got a whole bunch of items for executive session, which we've already enumerated on the agenda. So a little different than we normally do. For the general session, just an update from the regional control room in terms of the opening. We are, as a region in Western New York, still on track for a phase 3 opening to hopefully occur sometime next week. Target date is Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So just an update for the council members. We are still on track for that. Our metrics are holding. The only thing that is concerning is we do have an increase in positive cases, but hospitalizations and death rates have remained steady throughout the region. So that's a really positive thing for us. We continue to monitor things. We continue to provide information to the public whenever there's changes from the governor's office as soon as we get those things. The second item that I have, as was mentioned by Councilwoman James, given the current issues going on nationally, as well as the conversation and dialogue that was started about 2 weekends ago and the Black Lives Matter protest at Dow Park, along with the chief and I, which started this dialogue about racism and inclusivity and diversity here in the city. I've decided to bring back the Human Rights Commission, which has been part of the city for quite some time and unfortunately has not had any members in the last several years. There's obviously been some challenges to that, but the intention here is to allow our community to continue that dialogue and to essentially help the city become more inclusive and more diverse as we address real deep-rooted issues of racism here in our community. I just want to let the public know and our council members know the intent of the Human Rights Commission is to foster the mutual respect and understanding among all racial, religious, and nationality groups in the community. The intention of this group is really to help us as a city become more inclusive, help us as a city become more diverse, and help make recommendations to my office and to the city council to better our policies here in the city so that we can be more inclusive, that we can be responsive to the work and the things that our community is asking us to do. So I do want to announce it, and I want to ask all of your help as council members to help us identify the members of the community, a wide cross-section of the community, to start to appoint and bring together this group. We will have a press release going out tomorrow for those that are interested. And so far, briefly mentioning it, we've had over 45 people reach out to be a part of that. So we are moving all of the boards and commissions to a brief application process so that we can go through and ensure that we've got the right people for that committee. So tomorrow morning, we will send to specifically the council information on encouraging your constituents and residents to apply to that, as well as a press release to the public on how members can apply to be a part of that commission. So I want to thank all of you for going out, having these tough conversations with our residents and our constituents, and really working to address the issues that we are facing both nationally and here in the community. And it's my sincere hope that not only with a special public safety committee meeting to address the issues and better educate the public on what we do here in the city, that in conjunction with a more long-range approach of bringing back the Human Rights Committee to help us plan, to help us recruit, to help us diversify our city operations, my hope is that we can be a more inclusive community. So I want to put that out there to our council members, and more information coming tomorrow morning to all of you as well as to the public. A couple other just brief items. I wanted to just alert the public on a couple things. Number one, it is many of you as council members know, and the public will soon know, our assessor, Kevin Okerlund, will be retiring at the end of this month. So for the council members and for the public, we have started a search for the next assessor, which we received applications. We received over 30 applications on that. We've had a team of folks interview people and make recommendations. Council Member Eklund has been a part of that, as well as other members of our staff and members of the community. So we were working through that process, and we should have an appointment for you at the end of the month. In the meantime, I do have our assessment clerk, Lisa Volpe, here as part of our meeting. I wanted to just give you all a brief update of Grievance Day. And something that happened this year is the first time we've seen since 2004. So if I could have Ms. Volpe just briefly talk to the council about what happened with assessments and properties in the city of Jamestown. I know not the sexiest topic, but I know Lisa will do great.
Well, we had Grievance Day on May 26th. We had 24 people come in on 38 properties. The starting assessment value was 12 million on those 38 properties. The requested reduction in assessment was 6.7 million, but the grievance board managed to only give away about 2% or $292,000. And that's the recap of the whole thing.
And that's the lowest assessment change amount since 2004. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's the lowest change we've had in assessment value since 2004. So thank you, Lisa, and to Kevin Okerlund and his team for going through that process. It's quite challenging to go through and fight for the assessment of your property, but we had a great team that took care of that this year. So thank you.
Sure.
Just a couple other updates. Jeff, if you could give us a brief update on where we're at in terms of road construction. I know we had started construction season. You're on mute, Jeff. Not that I don't want to hear your voice. You're a beautiful speaker.
And that concludes my report. Well, we started Nova chipping last week and milling. So, the streets that we are doing, we're about halfway through our milling list. So there's a lot going on with the state projects with Forest Avenue and 3rd and Fluvanna. A lot of the concrete work is done on that, you'll see. And so you'll start seeing some milling on that probably within the next couple of weeks. So things are clipping along. A lot of concrete work, main streets being hammered out right now with a lot of sidewalk work, a lot of new catch basins, handicap ramps, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Jeff. And just a reminder to the council, we cut this summer's construction projects by a third. So we are still doing projects. We still have folks out there, but we are doing a third less construction than we would normally do this year. So thank you. A couple more updates. You may have noticed, and I did let the council know that we had started parking enforcement. I don't know if Mr. Ramondo is still with us. Mr.
Yes.
Ramondo, since your office is works the parking enforcement, can you give us an update?
Yes. So for those who do not know, parking enforcement falls under the Corporation Counsel's office. We began calling back our 2 parking enforcement officers last week on June the 2nd. They proceeded to issue just warning tickets until last Friday, June 5th, where they began issuing real tickets. And this coincides with phase 1 and phase 2 of the reopening and getting us back to normal, or the closest thing we have to normal.
Thank you. So if any of your constituents received a ticket that says warning ticket with a 0 fine, you can let them know that was a courtesy to make sure that they pay the meter next time. But everyone else after Friday has started to receive actual tickets. We wanted to at least warn the public that park regularly downtown that we were back in full enforcement mode. The last thing I have, actually 2 things, sorry. Clerk Williams, if you could just talk about the acceptance of passports and when that will be starting back up.
Sure. So we had reached out to the Buffalo Passport Office, as well as Zach had given us some information from the State Department's website. Folks need to know there's a significant delay, like matters of months delay in the processing of the passport application. The Passport Office said that they can start taking applications However, they want people to be advised that they are behind in the processing. There's no guarantee as far as the lead time on that. No expediting services are available unless it's a matter of life or death. They are slowly bringing their office staff back, I think, like most offices. They did encourage us to check the state website, the travel website, and that is travel.state.gov for updates. And I did check that this afternoon, and there's no change to that statement. The city does have a passport hotline that folks can call if they have questions regarding setting up an appointment to come in for passports. That number is 483-7708. One of our passport agents can answer that line and answer any questions that folks may have. We are accepting appointments. You can book an appointment to come in and apply for your passport. Wednesdays and Thursdays are the days that we have the most available agents to assist with that. So they can just call that passport line and we can set them up with an appointment. Until there is some sort of barrier in the assessor's office, they can just come right over to an extra window down by the treasurer's office to get their paperwork, just because we have the glass.
Great. Thank you. I only bring that up because we, believe it or not, have gotten a lot of requests for passports. So the city of Jamestown residents are doing their job booking vacations left and right out of the country. And just wanted to let you guys know where we're at in that process. Last one, I promise, and then we'll move on. If I could have Crystal talk about the webinars the Department of Development has been doing for our business community in terms of reopening.
Sure. So in response to the New York Forward state plan for reopening, we've tried to stay kind of as much ahead of reopening as possible, although it's difficult with things changing very rapidly, sometimes multiple times a day. That said, we have put together a webinar series that we host at noon. There's a schedule out. It's on our website. It's on Facebook. We've shared it with our business community and some other community partners, CCIDA, Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Development Center, and they've sent it out to their networks as well. So we hold a webinar so each day, and it's based on the phase that we're in. So currently we're in phase 2, and then by business sector or industry sector. So each webinar is specific to all of the different sectors that open within that particular phase. It's been pretty successful so far. We've had some great feedback from the business community. Like I said, we're trying to kind of stay ahead as much as we can. Each webinar is available on our website. So if you know anyone who may be looking for some more information as to requirements that the state has put out, the idea was to kind of distill the information that's been coming at all of us and the businesses sort of from every direction, and put it into a format that is just kind of simplifies things, walks the businesses through developing a business safety plan and affirming that they have read, understand, and intend to comply with the state's guidelines for reopening. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's available on our website, and we have a few more to go this week, and then we look forward to phase 3.
Crystal, do you think you've been getting a decent turnout on those?
Yeah, some days are more than others. You know, a lot of it depends on the type of business. There are business sectors that are a little bit larger as well than other sectors. So it depends on a lot of factors, but I think that we've had a good turnout, and we've also had some really great feedback during and after the webinar. So
I think it's a great program, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Just as a note to the council members and the media, that is on our website at jamestownny.gov/restart. So we will put that out and send that to an email for you guys as well. You'll see all the guidelines as well. Can watch any of the webinar series, jamestownny.gov/restart. So any other questions on that?
No, I'll just add one more thing. So any businesses that are reopening, there's a business safety plan template. It's just a fillable PDF that the state has put together. You don't have to use that format, but it's really simple and it kind of makes sense to use that format. So for any businesses that are looking for an easy template to follow, that's available on our website, but it's also available on the New York Forward website as well.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
That is it for remarks from the mayor.
Thank you. We do have several items for executive session, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we have contract negotiations, personnel matters, and negotiations, and possible transfer of property, correct?
That is correct, President Dulce.
Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Sheldon. Second
So move.
by Councilwoman Eklund. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in executive session. Thank you.
Great. Just give me a minute to stop everything. Just as a heads up for the community, there should be no action taken on any of those items.